What do you say to the individual from the outside looking in? And I've heard this said, you make people work and you shouldn't have the right. That's slave labor. How do you respond to that?
The best way to respond to that is these are folks who have not been able to hold down a job.
Yeah.
They've never had the skills. How many of you have done internships or an apprenticeship? You're learning on the job. You may not be earning while you're doing it, right? Most employers, a lot of them do that. So as part of your therapy, because we don't charge a dime, we don't charge anyone.
Right.
We don't bill insurance. We don't bill Medicaid. We don't bill private insurance. We don't bill mom and dad to come in and pay for you. If we did, you'd have to take out a second mortgage on your home.
Right.
Because that's what other programs are charging.
Right.
So we want to be self-sustaining. Not only does it give them purpose, wake up, go to work, go to bed, do it again. It's teaching them routine because it takes time for them to get back in that routine. If they want to be a good, active, contributing member of society that has a job and an income, they need that structure.
Welcome to Motivational Monday, a conversation with me, David Ibarra, and my guest, Preston Cochrane.
That's right.
Welcome.
Thanks for having me, David. It's good to be here.
Preston is the CEO of the Other Side Village. So I want to jump right in because everybody in at least the West knows a little bit about the Other Side Village. Tell us about the thought of it, where it came from, and what is the goal?
Yeah. So the Other Side Village is really just an offshoot or a sister organization to the Other Side Academy. We use a lot of the same principles, beliefs, philosophies, approach to working in a therapeutic community, but also some differences. And those primary differences would be the population that we serve. The Academy serves those with a long-term incarceration background, substance use, and some bouts of homelessness. Whereas the Other Side Village focuses primarily on those who have experienced chronic homelessness with a mental health diagnosis. So that's how we separate those two.
They may not be connected together then. Somebody may not be in the Other Side Academy graduating and needing housing and go to the Other Side Village, but it may.
Totally separate.
But it is separate.
Totally separate. Yeah, if a graduate from the Academy, the idea is to get them integrated back into society, housing, not the village housing.
Got it.
So for
They're
village,
not connected.
No, the village we do, outreach, recruiting. We're in homeless resource centers. We're on the street encampments. It's really search and rescue. We're helping save people's lives that would otherwise be dying on the streets.
Well, tell me, how is it different from Housing First?
So Housing First was really a seismic approach, federal approach to solving homelessness back in 2013. Utah adopted that model. And that model has some benefits. But what we do is Housing Plus, or a human first approach is what we call it. And the human first is focusing on the root causes of homelessness. We've learned that just putting a roof over someone's head is not going to help them resolve their homelessness status, or it's not going to resolve their housing. Many cases, they're going to lose that if they've been tied to a housing voucher and there's no accountability attached to that. They lose their house.
Right.
So for us, it's focusing on what are those root causes that have caused them to live on the streets, and how do we help them unlearn those old ways?
It's really interesting, Preston, is that as this issue of homelessness spreads and the numbers increase, and they're increasing almost all across this nation. There are pockets of our country that they've actually got their arms around it. San Antonio, Tampa, I can't remember which, what is it, North Tampa, South Tampa, or what have you. But largely it's blowing up, and people are becoming less compassionate. And I tell you, for me, it's really important that we remember the people.
Absolutely.
Secondly, this is our neighborhoods. And we can't lose our neighborhoods, our pocket parks where children play. There's businesses. And we need the revenue. We need people to do business in downtown Salt Lake City. So everyone wins or everyone loses if we don't do this together.
That's right. There's what we call unintentional ideological bigotry,
right?
Where you just don't think people have the capacity to move beyond hope, beyond transformation. What we've learned and what we've seen and what we experience every day is you've got to give people purpose. They've got to feel a sense of belonging. And when you do that and you give them that connection and community, that's when the magic and miracles happen.
Well, you know, it's interesting. I visited the Haven for Hope in San Antonio several times. 5-6 years ago, I went on a mission to, as a business entrepreneur, I know what I know and I know what I don't know. And when I don't know something, find someone who does. Get off your tail. Go visit the cities, walk it, touch it, talk to somebody. And I found that in San Antonio. And it was really interesting in that someone in San Antonio is not allowed to camp. But they move them to a campus, the individual. And the individual may be impaired. The individual may be angry. But what I saw just floored me, Preston, in that somebody welcomed them.
Yeah.
And they welcomed them with a kind tone. They might be getting screamed at. And what they'd say, Preston, understood. We've got some great food today. And the food was off the hook good. For a purpose of getting people to want to come. And then they explained the doors. When you're ready, that door's detox. That door's dental. That door's. And when you're ready, I'll walk you through the door that you need to go to.
Yeah, growth can't be forced.
Yes.
It has to be chosen.
It has to be chosen. Bingo. Desire. And wait for the desire. Wait. Be patient. And when it comes, then it's the starting point. And I view that is largely the Other Side Academy, which I love, in that we understand that things can't be fixed in 12 weeks. It takes a couple of years and maybe even 3 to redo the belief that there is a future for me. But tell me what you're doing different, because when you started the Other Side Village, I'm sure you had some pushback that everybody wants to help as long as it's not in their neighborhood.
Sure.
Tell me how you overcame it.
Yeah, I mean, like anything, they're skeptics, right? And we were riding on the coattails. The village was riding on the coattails of the academy. So they'd had 10 years of an opportunity to prove themselves. And being, 7th East, 1st South downtown in the neighborhood they are, that's a pretty predominant area.
It is.
And now you talk to neighbors who were once against it, and they would have it no other way. They say the neighborhood's better.
No other way.
And so we were lucky to be able to say, yeah, we're associated. The village is associated. We're the same entity. We're serving a different population. The approach is a little bit different too. So the academy is more of a hierarchical or authoritarian therapeutic community. You've got graduates who are running the whole school and academy.
In other words, they're self-policing.
Correct.
Okay.
Whereas the village is democratic. So imagine if you're a participant in the village, the community, you have a say in the policies, the procedures, the rules.
Like a homeowners association.
HOA, very similar. So they voted and said, first of all, we want a sober community. Okay. And here's some of the other things that we want. We want a 90-day therapeutic hold on all digital devices.
Tell me about that. What does that mean?
That means if you have your cell phone, what are you attached to? If you've been living on the street, you could be attached to a lot of bad things.
Okay.
People.
Right.
Dealers. Traffickers.
So they take the phone away?
So they said the best thing to do for us is to take it away for at least 90 days.
Wow.
And then let's reevaluate that after 90 days.
Wow. And these are the things you agree to get in.
And these are voted upon by the community. It's not the staff saying, here's all the rules and policies.
Right.
Everyone votes on it. Everyone has a say in the matter. And that's a little bit different than the academy. Our average student at the academy has been incarcerated 26 times. They need a school of hard knocks. For the village, our average neighbor, we call them a neighbor. We don't call them a client or a customer or a patient. They're our neighbor. They've been on the streets for 9.4 years on average. So we have folks that have experienced homelessness for 20 plus years. Imagine coming into a community where all of a sudden you're no longer worried about having to pick up all your stuff every day to keep it safe. It's going to get stolen.
Right.
And you're in a safe environment. People who care, who love you, who want to see you grow, who see your potential.
So in other words, you matter.
You matter.
You matter. And until somebody feels that way, it's difficult for them to take a step forward.
Right. They've been isolating. They've been on their own. They've been living in survival mode. And it takes a long time. We call it the dosage effect. So the dosage effect for someone that's been incarcerated, do you think 30, 60, 90-day program is going to do much for them? It hasn't.
It hasn't up to now.
And so the same thing applies to those who have been living on the street. You can't put someone in a shelter or emergency a resource center and expect them in 30 to 60 days to be able to just completely turn their life around.
Well, it's interesting. We've all got these different models, and we have a tendency, and don't even know why we do what we do, but whether you're the road home or whether you're, we have these opinions, and we fight to keep our opinion. And I look at the Magnolia apartment, and it's just heartbreaking that the investment that went into it, that overnight we could have just a absolutely undesirable end result that ruined a whole street. I happen to know a little bit about it. I lived across the street from it, and you know, we some of the neighbors, we used to call it Crack Alley. We had to leave, and so I sold my home and couldn't live. And I love downtown area, but it doesn't have to be that way. Now, if I'm not mistaken, the Other Side Village has, and now that's putting somebody in 4 walls, housing first, if you will, but not human beings first.
Right.
Because if you put somebody in a place to sleep and you don't address the concerns that go with the individual, then what do you have? You have a building that could be brand new, won't look brand new in just 6 months. And unfortunately, that building does not. But so how is it that you make sure that doesn't occur at the Other Side Village? Again,
it's community is therapy. It's accountability. It's peer-led. It's democratic. And imagine so our graduates that have moved on, before they can move into the village, we don't just hand them a key to their house and say, here you go, good luck.
Yep.
We'd say, David, before you go into the village, which that may not be your end goal, right? Let's focus on you.
Okay.
We have what's called the Village Prep School.
That's what I was wanting to get to.
Okay.
I heard about this. Tell me more.
So the prep school is similar to the academy, but it's shorter. Similar approach, similar in terms of the groups and how we meet and how frequently we meet. Our social enterprises, which allow us to run our operations free from any sort of asking for government or state handouts and taxpayer dollars. And so with that prep school, minimum 6 months. Minimum.
So you're going to a prep school to learn about what it means to be a member of a community, a neighbor.
You're learning how to stabilize. You're learning how to catch your breath. You're no longer sleeping on the street. You're now eating some healthy food. Your mind's starting to now clear up. We're going to look at your medication. We have licensed clinical social workers on staff, different than the academy.
Right.
80% of our folks have a mental health diagnosis. So, you know, there's people coming in. They're on all sorts of different medications, or they're not on medications, and they should be. So we are doing everything that we possibly can to make sure that they have the right structure in place and the right systems. The way it's set up in our prep school is you have your own, there's apartment, but you have roommates. So you have 2 to 3 roommates, but you have your own room, you have your own bathroom, you have your own fridge, you have your own place to store your stuff. For many, that's right, for them, that's
you got
the
your
first
things,
step.
you got your stuff.
First step.
As what was it? George Carlin talked about his routine about everybody likes to have their stuff.
Right.
At what age do you wish you had unlocked the principles that lead to success? Where do you think you'd be today if you had learned them as a child? Yes, Our Kids Can is a program developed at Harvard and tested in San Antonio's school systems, designed to give children of all backgrounds the opportunity to plant the seeds for future success, using learning techniques they understand and enjoy. Through engaging animated stories, fun sing-along songs, and interactive games, Yes, Our Kids Can teaches your child the empowering, success-driven principles needed to reach their full potential. Don't miss this opportunity to give your children the future they deserve. Yes, Our Kids Can is available now on the Apple App Store and Google Play. Sign up today and help make your child's dreams a reality.
Yeah, you got to have.
But we
stuff.
also go through your stuff.
Yes.
We inspect your stuff. We make sure you're not bringing stuff in that shouldn't be there. We're doing drug testing. We do that whenever we feel like we need to. Anytime someone comes in.
So the individuals are earning a right to be a member.
Correct.
A neighbor within the community of the other side village.
Yeah, we identify people. We do what's called Village Connect, where we meet with people at the downtown library every other week and introduce them to the village concept. Who doesn't, that's on the street, who doesn't want their own place? They all hear about the village and say, I want my home. But again, before I hand you the keys to your house, David, it's like you have kids. You've taught them how to drive. Would you feel comfortable giving your kid keys to the car and say, hey, good luck, David. We hope you can just make it down the street.
Sure.
It's not going to happen.
So
they have to learn what it means to own and take care of a home and take care of their place and take care of themselves so that they can sustain that housing long term.
Well, I love the idea of humans first, human beings first. I mean, thinking of the person. I mean, everybody matters. And the moment that they believe they do, miracles do happen. But that community, how many folks are now living at the other side village?
So we've had 6 graduates graduate from the prep school, have moved in and transitioned into their own home in the village.
Right.
And we've got 20 more that are in the prep school now.
Wow.
So our prep school, it's an apartment complex.
Right.
It's temporary. We're building a new facility right across the street from the academy, which will double our capacity, so 52, and we hope to finish that by November, December of this year. That is the springboard, or that's the pathway to the village. So as we get people in there, and again, minimum 6 months, some people might need longer.
Right.
And they need longer. But as they graduate from the prep school, then we give them the opportunity to move into the village where they do pay rent. Again, our programs are free, so no one pays a dime.
Yeah. Tell me how do they pay rent? What is the agreement?
So part of when they're in the prep school is to teach them vocational skills. That could be working in our social enterprise businesses.
Right.
The academy has a moving company, a storage company, thrift boutiques, a construction company. The students work in those social enterprises.
I got to ask you this question.
Okay.
What do you say to the individual from the outside looking in? And I've heard this said, you make people work and you shouldn't have the right. That's slave labor. How do you respond to that?
The best way to respond to that is these are folks who have not been able to hold down a job.
Yeah.
They've never had the skills. How many of you have done internships or an apprenticeship? You're learning on the job. You may not be earning while you're doing it, right? Most employers, a lot of them do that. So as part of your therapy, because we don't charge a dime, we don't charge anyone.
Right.
We don't bill insurance. We don't bill Medicaid. We don't bill private insurance. We don't bill mom and dad to come in and pay for you. If we did, you'd have to take out a second mortgage on your home.
Right.
Because that's what other programs are charging.
Right.
So we want to be self-sustaining. Not only does it give them purpose, wake up, go to work, go to bed, do it again. It's teaching them routine because it takes time for them to get back in that routine. If they want to be a good, active, contributing member of society that has a job and an income, they need that structure.
And everybody, for me, the response is quite simple. Anything free that hasn't been earned, it's not going to be treated the same. it's not going to be treated
Yeah,
the
well
same.
said.
Now, I tell you, and it's the beginning of developing pride. And without that, no desire, no hope. So I look at that question when I've heard very
as have I.
educated people ask that question, and I go, I can't even, I can't answer this with a straight face. It's that ridiculous in my own mind. But the one thing that I just want to quickly say is that, I'm building a new home in North Salt Lake. I am finally going to leave the city, but I'm still here in my business headquarters in downtown.
Yeah.
Right. But I had to move out of the apartment that I was living in until it was built. And I had a delay, so I had to quickly move. I called the Other Side Academy movers. They are there right on time. 4 absolute delightful human beings, guys that were pleasant, pleasing, careful, and it was one of the best experiences that I've ever had. Matter of fact, when it came time to pay, I don't even remember. I didn't even care. They were that good. And those were people that were in trouble recently and didn't believe they mattered. By working, earning their own keep, they were gaining pride. And I wish the individual, an educator, I could just take her by the hand and show her, look at that. Now, the Other Side Village, correct me if I'm wrong, did I hear it right when I heard there's going to be like some Airbnbs in there?
Yeah, one of our social enterprises is called the Cottages. So right up front, as you pull into the village site, we have 21 sites that will be unique style. I can't use the term Airbnbs,
right,
but they're nightly rentals.
Okay.
That not only creates jobs for our villagers who are living there. When you think of, customer service better than anyone, right? So you think of guest services, janitorial, custodian, booking, reservations, all those things that come into giving people an experience. The village is going to attract people, and it already is attracting people from all over the world. It's going to be a gem of Salt Lake City. We have cities who are following it very closely, other cities saying, we like this concept, we believe in this concept, we like what you're doing. Can we replicate that? And we could replicate it very easily. Again, the Cottages generates revenue to sustain the growth for the village.
Right.
That's the purpose. But it also gives people an opportunity to come and experience it. 21 different style, nightly rentals, cottage style homes where you've got anything from an A-frame to a 3D printed home to a log cabin to a stucco to a 2-story. One's going to be a family house just like the home and up. If you think about that.
Yes. So the other benefit that I would think is that if I really wanted to understand it, can I live? Can I stay here for 3-4 days? And
3-4 weeks.
I'm sure that are the rec rooms and other things open to the people.
They will be.
So they can mingle, see, walk, cleanliness, interact with our neighbors.
They could have,
And I'm a betting man. I would bet that Other Side Village is going to be the safest, nicest neighborhood in that area.
Because they learn culture in the prep school, just like Academy.
Yeah.
And they take that with them.
Wow. Yeah.
So it's part of it. And it'll be a place where companies want to come and do a retreat there and stay there. Everything
and celebrate.
right there. Celebrate.
There is nothing better in our lives than telling the stories of somebody overcoming an adversity. Do you have any story that just comes to mind of a student that is just makes you giggle when you look at the travel they
It's hard to just pinpoint one because there's many and everyone is different and everyone has a story. The person that's holding a sign on the corner has purpose. You guys got to give them opportunity. So we've got a handful of folks living at the Village who work at the Other Side Donuts, just right around the corner on Redwood Road, our donut shop.
Those are good.
Award-winning gourmet-style knife and fork donuts, right?
Nobody told me about the knife and fork. I had it all down my chin and everywhere else.
Oh, you had the creme brulee one or something. 46 different kinds of donuts, and they're award-winning donuts.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll brag about that. The folks running that, the folks that are managing the teams, are graduates of the prep school living in the Village.
Right.
So we've got a woman who had a traumatic brain injury, and was on the streets for a long time, and heard about the Village, came in 8 months ago. Now she's a paid employee for the Other Side Donuts, living in her own home at the Village, paying rent,
I think.
and thriving.
Was she at the?
They all were.
Oh yeah, I believe I met
They all
her.
were. Mm-hmm.
I went over. I had to come over and look at that. And I tell you what, I sometimes you shouldn't talk about how you give, but I want business individuals to know. As you look at what's going on in our city, Salt Lake City, and it's not the safest city that it used to be. It's not the cleanest city that it used to be. The fact of the matter is not the Perry Como city that people were making fun of us for having in 2002. And you have a choice. You can shake your head and complain, or you can find something that works and get behind it.
Yeah.
I was talking to Joseph, and he told me about it, Grenny. And so I want to be involved. And he said, well, you can buy one and donate it. And so I did. That same day, one of my dear friends, K.O. Murdoch from the Murdoch Automotive Group, heard about it and said, count me in. So any business owners that can, because there's no reason you can't do well and good at the same time. I would not ask you to donate to a nonprofit because, frankly, you probably won't like what I'm going to say next. Many don't know what to do with the resources you've given, and it's wasted. But the Other Side Village, it's not a waste. We need 400 of these minimally donated. And every time I drive by it, it makes me smile because you know you made a difference in that house.
Yeah. The Live Ready Casa is right there in our first neighborhood.
There you go.
Right? It's right there. And,
Well-
and when you sponsor a home, we want you to help name that home.
That's right.
Right?
I had no problem knowing what I was going to name my home. Live Ready, Beyond Think and Grow Rich, which, by the way, I'm going to give you this book, but we're not done yet. I was going to give it to you at the end.
Okay.
But that motivated what I wanted to name. Learn to live ready. And that comes with some guiding principles. Before we end, though, I want to thank you for what you do. You have quite a background in this area, if I'm not mistaken.
Everything I've done in my career has led me, I feel like, culminated to this. I don't think of this as a job. This is a mission.
Right.
This is something that we feel we can take globally. We can scale this. We can replicate it. We've learned. We've traveled the world. Literally, we've traveled the world to look at what's working, what's not working. And I've seen things in different communities. I've seen things at Oxford University. I've seen things in prisons in London.
Right.
And said, we gotta implement that. We gotta implement that. You know what? This is really cool over here.
Now, before you were working for the state, right?
Before I joined the Village, I was working for Valley Behavioral Health.
Okay.
I was vice president of housing
Right.
and support services. Prior to that, I was the CEO of Shelter the Homeless, which at the time was when we overhauled the whole homeless system. We closed down the downtown shelter. We built 3 new homeless resource centers.
Yeah.
We had Operation Rio Grande. So all those things were right on, in the time frame that I was there.
Well, I'll tell you what, we got to try everything we can. If something doesn't work, we've got to undo it and do what does work. One of the things I learned in business, if I built something wrong, I can't live with it for 20 years.
Nope.
I got to tear it down and build it right. Because good money after bad money just makes it bad. And the other side village, and I'm sure you've got experience to be able to really talk with passion about just believe with me. I'm not saying it's the only answer, but this is an answer. So those of us in Salt Lake City, in the Intermountain West, look at it and don't criticize it. Look at the students graduating, living there, Other Side Academy, Other Side Village. And if you can't recognize that, wow, this is special, then you just got to look again, because it is special.
Come see it firsthand. When you see the faces, when you see the impact, when you see the lives changed of people who would otherwise be dead. They would. And they would tell you that.
Preston, you summed it all up when you said, this is my mission. And when you find your mission in life, you don't work a day.
No.
You just don't work a day. Is there anything you'd like to leave our audience with prior to ending our program?
We can all live ready. I love the title because we're teaching our folks how to live ready, how to live on their own. These are our beliefs. So the beliefs were what the community came up with. When you look at those beliefs, right, it starts with love.
Love?
Love transcends all. And when you move down that list, some of the
family, hope, 200% accountability, growth. Each one, teach one. Yeah. You know, they don't become internalized until you become a disciple of what you believe. How do you become a disciple? Teaching another.
Yeah. If we're both in it and you're beyond and you've moved faster than I have, and that's why it works, because when people see it, they see themselves.
Pride in work, self-reliance, faith-friendly.
Faith-friendly.
You know, we talk about, in my book, I talk about the 5 roles of life. And don't live your life to be wealthy. Live your life to be rich. And what does rich mean? Accomplishing what you wanted in family, faith, community, health, and enough wealth to be present in all the roles of your life. Very similar. We're in alliance. I want to thank you for being on our program today.
Thanks so much for having me.
You make a difference.
Thank you. Thanks for your support.